Selamat berjumpa kembali dengan saya Laili dari Las Vegas. Saya mendapatkan amanah dari Subdep Departemen Parenting dari IMSA Sister. Kali ini akan membawakan acara Building Awareness of Teen Problems Among Parents bersama Sister Sakinah. Bersama saya sudah ada beliau dan beberapa peserta yang lainnya. Untuk itu, marilah kita mulai bersama-sama dengan membaca doa. Alhamdulillahilladzi hadana li hada wa ma kunna linahtadiya laula an hadanallah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah sudah ada Sakinah di sini bersama saya. Acara ini kita mulai dulu dengan pembacaan tilawah oleh Bapak Yusuf Kurniawan. Silakan Pak Yusuf.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Suara saya kedengaran?
Ya, kedengaran.
Kedengaran ya. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wahia tajri bihim fi maujin kal jibali wa nada Nuhun ibnahu wa kana fi ma'zili ya bunayya arkam ma'ana wa la takum ma'al kafirin. Qala sa'awi ila jabali ya'simuni minal ma' qala la 'asimal yawma min amrillahi illa man rahim wa hala bainahumal mawju fakana minal mughraqin. Shadaqallahul azim. Artinya, aku berlindung pada Allah dari godaan syaitan yang terkutuk dengan menyebut nama Allah yang Maha Pengasih lagi Maha Penyayang. Dan kapal itu berlayar membawa mereka ke dalam gelombang laksana gunung-gunung. Dan Nuh memanggil anaknya ketika dia, anak itu, berada di tempat yang jauh terpencil. Wahai anakku, naiklah ke kapal bersama kami dan janganlah engkau bersama orang-orang kafir. Dia, anaknya, menjawab, aku akan mencari perlindungan ke gunung yang dapat menghindarkan aku dari air bah. Nuh berkata, tidak ada yang melindungi dari siksa Allah pada hari ini selain Allah yang Maha Penyayang. Dan gelombang menjadi penghalang antara keduanya. Maka dia, anak itu, termasuk orang yang ditenggelamkan. Maha benar Allah dengan segala firman-Nya.
Barakallah Pak Yusuf. Semoga kita semua yang mendengarkannya juga mendapatkan pahala dari pembacaan Quran tadi. Saya hanya mau memberikan reminder bahwa saat ini session berikut ini adalah terbuka untuk semuanya, tapi dari Subdep Parenting Departemen ini kita juga punya program yang akan berlangsung selama setahun. Beberapa kali pertemuan ke depan kita akan dibersamai oleh Sakinah, kemudian nanti akan ada juga session di bulan summer dan kemudian di bulan fall-nya. Bersama Sakinah kita akan punya ada 2 kali Zoom dan kemudian juga ada independent self reflection selama Ramadan yang bisa dimanfaatkan oleh semua orang tua. Untuk itu saya mengundang para pemirsa yang belum mendaftarkan dirinya bisa mendaftarkan di Google di WhatsApp grupnya yang nantinya juga akan diposting di beberapa pengajian lokal semuanya. Untuk itu saya mulai saja ya, langsung masuk ke topik yang begitu hangat ini. Bersama saya sudah, there you go, ada Sakinah. Assalamualaikum Sakinah, how are you?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Kak Laili. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So this, it's a hot topic. It's a hot because whenever we talked about parenting teens. It's a group of it's a group of age where we love them, but we hate it because we also understand that investment for the hereafter. Because we've been raising them since they were very young, and the becoming big have them also. So, but first of all, we want to get to know you a little bit. So can you tell us a little bit about you? It's my voice okay?
Nggak kedengaran tau Laili. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not hearing you atau memang semua orang nggak bisa?
Anyone else hear me? Like, but Ainu, can you check if my voice is pretty okay there?
Kak Laili suaranya juga agak cutting off soalnya.
Cutting off, yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me see if I can make my devices priority. I already did that earlier. I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. Teknik. Semua sambil nunggu, sambil tarik nafas. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah.
Allahu Akbar. Okay. There we go. How is my voice right now? Is it still cutting off?
Nggak, lagi terang sekarang.
Ya, terang. Oh, alhamdulillah. Okay. All right. So, let me just repeat myself a little bit then, backing up a bit. This, the Subdepartment of Parenting, mengetengahkan parenting teens, the topic right now. It's a program that we're gonna have with you, Sakinah, leading us on this program for a couple of Zoom meeting, and also we will be creating a self-reflection flyers throughout Ramadan, taking the advantage of the holy month of Ramadan that is coming up in about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, inshallah. When we talked about parenting teens, we talked about growing pains. Also, it's growing pains for the teenager itself, but growing pains also for mommy and daddy at the same times. But we can navigate to it. There's always a hope down the line and during the process of that parenthood. But before we get there, we would like to get to know you a little bit. So Sakinah, if you can tell us a little bit about you, because you're going to be our source ilmu.
InsyaAllah, sama-sama. Ini perjalanan that we are on together gitu kan. It's not so much that, yeah, it's a journey that we take together, and it takes a village to raise the next generation. Jadi perlunya satu perkampungan gitu untuk mendidik dan meneruskan keturunan kita dan generasi kita dalam iman dan dalam Islam, insyaAllah. So, thank you to IMSA for inviting me again. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Ada yang dah kenal daripada muktamar di Los Angeles tempoh hari, ada yang mungkin first time to meet me and first time for me to meet some of you. My name is Sakinah Alhabshi, asalnya dari Malaysia, baru pindah ke California 2018. My grandmother, though, is from Indonesia. I know some of us were having a chat about that earlier. So if you know the Al-Kaf family atau Al-Sagaf family di Indonesia gitu, saya punya orang tua dan nenek saya juga dari Indonesia. So there's a little bit of mixing of Malaysian and Indonesian culture in my household.
Yeah.
My background that you wanted me to share a little bit was in engineering. I did an undergrad in environmental and civil engineering di US, dapat beasiswa sama Petronas, jadi company oil and gas gitu kan, kayak Pertamina. It's like, yeah. So I came to the US for my undergrad, and I had my youthful formational identity formation age in college here in Chicago before I moved back to Malaysia. So some of those experiences may also parallel kayak what anak-anak kita sekarang juga yang kuliah di Amerika.
Oh, mashallah. So how did you get into chaplaincy then?
So once I went back to Malaysia, dah tamat kuliah di engineering, pulang ke Malaysia bekerja sama Petronas kerana beasiswa gitu kan, harus kerja sama Petronas. About 10 years di Malaysia, di Sudan, di Uzbekistan. Tetapi the whole time gitu saya nyambung pengajian Islam part time di weekend atau di malam. I did a diploma in Islamic studies, a diploma in Islamic studies in Malaysia, and I knew I wanted to do this a little bit more seriously. So after 10 years in engineering, I left oil and gas, and I continued my studies in Islam, in trauma, in counseling, in relawan gempa, volunteer for gempa bumi di Indonesia gitu. So my background shifted towards like religion and spirituality and trauma and crisis and counseling in these kinds of fields. And that's when I found out about chaplaincy training di Amerika. Jadi dijemput untuk nyambung pengajian di US dalam bidang spirituality, bidang agama di sini. Alhamdulillah, I was at Stanford Hospital for about 2 years doing religious and spiritual care training, dan juga punya masters pengajian Islam dari Graduate Theological Union di Berkeley, dan sekarang masih nyambung interreligious chaplaincy. Jadi kita juga pengajian tentang agama-agama lain begitu di US. Bagaimana provide spiritual care untuk untuk teman-teman kita dari agama yang berbeza gitu juga.
That's very interesting, Sakinah. So you also, I would say, have the ability to really actually listen then, listening to people's stories and listening to your patient's story. Yeah. Oh, mashallah. Okay. So again, because this is still at the beginning of the our session, and I'm seeing like we have some of the participant that's just joining us, I would like to remind you the session is pretty much open for this time, but if you would like to, if you find that this is interesting, then please join us for sign up for the program, and you will be getting a lot more when you signed up. One of the most beneficial part of what you will be getting is the self-reflection flyers during Ramadan that would be catered to you from our department with the guidance of Sakinah. Also, so moving on to the topic. Anak adolescents, anak teen itu ada grupnya, ada grup umurnya, ada grup masanya, karena kadang udah agak umur tua juga tapi kelakuannya masih seperti teenager juga. So I think there's like that period. I think there is so much changes that's going on physically, and then physiology, you know, like secara kejiwaan, secara fisik dan secara kejiwaan dari seorang teenager. Bisa sedikit Sakinah jelaskan kepada kita?
Yes, inshallah, let's start with a little bit of maybe background or understanding. Jadi hari ini we will share kayak a little bit of what goes on in a youth punya identity formation di zaman-zaman yang tengah mencari identity gitu di umur mungkin from 10 to 18. Tapi like Kak Laili was saying, you were saying that age is a number aja gitu. Sometimes ada yang umurnya 10 tetapi mentalnya, maturity-nya dah lebih. But then there could be some who's much older tapi they are at a different developmental level. Jadi we'll discuss more of the big picture themes, tema-tema yang berkenaan, mana yang mungkin relevant for your own anak-anak setiap sendiri, yang mana yang rasa insyaAllah beneficial. I'll start by saying that dalam proses identity development, especially in their spiritual and religious identity development for a youth or even a child, there's like three main areas that we want to look at. The first is the iman, so the belief, the kepercayaan, bagaimana prosesnya develop iman dan kepercayaan. The second part is the amalan, the ibadah, the amalan, the practices of the religious identity. And then the third part is usually the community. So this is what we have, komunitas, community, that help to shape and form the socialization, sosialisasi, then also religious identity of the youth. And ini nggak bisa dipisahkan, kan, we cannot separate the three, the iman itself, the action, even our din, in dalam din kita Islam adalah ilmu campur amal, kan. So ilmu dan iman itu nggak cukup tanpa amal, tapi amal aja disuruh solat, tapi nggak punya perbincangan tentang who is Allah, apa itu iman, bagaimana, how do I have my relationship dengan Allah begitu as an orang muda gitu. The belief and the values is also an important part of the discussion today, and inshallah in the next sessions.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that teenager is that formative time where they really look for identity. It's a very critical time. Mm-hmm. But then at the same times, there's also so much changes in their body. Like mm-hmm. they get very high and then very fast, and then they got, breaks out on their face, and that in itself is already problematic, and they struggle to blend in. I think that's one of the things that we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. But then also their sense of ego, just me, it's also big. So it's very interesting. And for the parents that like I've gone through that myself with two of my teenager, it's very hard for the parents. Mm-hmm. And can you give us a little more deeper explanation? What is that identity period that they're going through?
Okay, that is a really important reflection. And so one angle that I want to look at, I know there's banyak kan, topik ini begitu luas, jadi kita punya just a few small learnings that we can have today, insyaAllah. Dari segi identity, kita cuba we try to imagine our relationship, the child's relationship, satu with themselves, their relationship with Allah, and their relationship with others, with orang lain gitu. So when we look at the perspective of their relationship with others, with the friends, with the saudara mara, with the family, with the community, with their schoolmates, we see the research shows kayak begitu ada spectrum. Jadi on this side, there is a desire, anak-anak kita punya desire untuk blend in, untuk assimilate. Mereka nggak mau look too different or sound too different than their peers. So this is where sometimes you might find the struggle of maybe pakaian. Kenapa I have to wear hijab? I look so different. Teman-teman semua nggak pakai hijab gitu lain. Atau language. Why do I speak with an accent? Or my family speaks with an accent. And they might feel different feelings around that because they just want to kind of blend in and assimilate and be the same as their friends. Jadi nggak mau nampak apa-apa kebedaan. But on the other end of the spectrum is also the desire at that age, starting macam 10, 12, 14 gitu onwards. Anak-anak kita punya mau develop their own, like you were saying earlier, kan ada their own ego, their own unique. I want to be a little bit unique, a little bit different. I don't want to just be like everybody else. I want to look a little cool, or I want to wear something that is me, that's different than my friends. So, or my Instagram wants to look like a certain way. Jadi my Instagram gak mau sama aja seperti teman-teman. So there's this spectrum, right? There's some people like that. They so want to assimilate, and some really want to stand out. And most of us are somewhere in the middle. So the youth are also constantly balancing ini kayak gimana, I want to blend in tapi I want to be unique, but I don't want to be unique in a way yang it might draw attention and shame kalau my community gitu. So
not too much attention.
Not too much attention, and yet still wanting to be unique, and that struggle is usually where they are stuck with in their Muslim identity. And that's also where kadang-kadang ini the role, I called it the role of the ambassador, the Muslim ambassador role. Jadi kayaknya I had this question from one of our community girls di Muktamar. Dia bilang, I wear hijab in school. Anak-anak kita ya, I wear hijab in school. My classmate nggak ada yang wear hijab in school. I'm like the only Muslim, or there's few Muslims, or in college. And many people ask me questions about Islam. I'm 15, I'm 16, what do I know? Kenapa jadi orang tanya gitu kan, oh I want to find out about Islam, why is Islam like this? Why is all these difficult questions that even the parents, we sometimes struggle with those questions. And when the teens or the youth are visibly Muslim, often they have to play that role kayak ambassador, menjawab bagi pihak agamaku gitu kan, begitu berat rasanya.
Yeah, that's heavy. That is heavy. It's a hard, when we really look at it from that corner, then I do feel for the teen, you know, like but on a daily basis, they're wanting to be alone can be a struggle for parents. Like you know, we want to spend time with them. We want to take them to pengajian, or we want to take them to the mall. They don't want that, you know, they want to have their own time, or they would rather going with their friends. Actually, that is also like, is that very common? Like they just want to be, is it part of the you know, more about they're just wanting to be alone? Is that?
That's it's a bit of a combination. So it is part of that identity formation that you build relationship when you are younger. It's with your immediate family, and then as you get older and you are exposed to other people, you are also trying to build relationships there, and the energy moves outside the home, like you said. And in that trying to figure out who am I di bayar-bayar itu, lebih rasanya the youth tend to feel more connected with their friends. And I think maybe we might talk a little bit more about it in the future sessions, like how as a household, kita punya family gitu, mau maintain the bond, emotional bond bersama anak-anak kita. Jadi mereka punya balance, di mana ya teman tetap teman, we have friends, we want to do things outside, we want to explore all these, the world is so big now, beyond just my home. My friends can drive, my friends can pick me up, my friends can do that, I want to do the stuff they can do, but also still be able to know that they have a strong home base. Still punya orang tua di rumah yang mereka bisa trust dan bisa ada relationship. Jadi the identity exploration will happen outside. It's part of nature, it's part of their exploration, it's part of them learning how to live in community. But how do we still provide them that base at the home that they can always come back to and that they know is safe for them?
So, as you mentioned that, for those who hasn't registered, please do register in our program. Then you will be getting all those tips and tricks during the Ramadan, inshallah. Sister Sakinah will give us the self-reflective flyers that we can definitely use. Our team also will send out like a Google form for all the parents to put in your input or your questions or your keluh kesah or your problem over there. That way, our flyer will actually will be taken from that, inshallah. So moving on a little bit. it's, you know, like when still talking about the teenage group itself right now, before we moving on to the parent part of it. When I see it sounded to me like they're also having a hard time, though they may seems to us in our parents' eyes, they're having too much fun, like too much fun at school, too much fun hanging out, too much fun, just, you know, everything is too much fun in our eyes. But as I hear it from you, they going through a lot also, you know, like as if like mentally inside they're going through a lot, especially for our community. It's a lot of us having a mixed culture parents, also a lot of us, the parents are first immigrant to this United States, that like what you said before, the language is different at home than what they speak at outside at the school with their friends. And then when they, you know, they may not even want to bring their friends to the house just because of that, you know, because there's too big of a difference. They have a set of identity outside their home. It's you know, like that term of they're still figuring out themselves. And I do feel for them, like, is that a correct corner from a parent to like feel empathy towards them? But then how do we balance the that corner of, not corner, but our role as a parent? It's, you know, just from the teen portions right now before we moving on to the parent part.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned feeling empathy for them. And I know that's easier said than done sometimes when you are in the middle of
Been
all
through
that stress and trying to manage 3 teenagers at the same time. And I don't have an answer for that. It's such a process that we are all part of and go through. And I've found that what has been really helpful is also just being more honest with your own cabaran as an orang tua, your own struggles as a parent. And especially as the children get older, to be comfortable. You know the not hadith, but the saying from Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. So Sayyidina Ali said that the first 7 tahun, the first 7 years, play with the children, kan? Play as a foundation to connect and to build trust. And then for the second 7 years, daripada umur 7 ke 14, 7 to 14, then we teach them. We have a little bit more discipline in those formation years until the age of 14. And then dari 14, the next 7 years, dari 14 to 21, advise them like a friend. So that third stage of like a bit more of a mature, trusting relationship with your youth and your teenagers as a friend. Tapi that has to preferably be able to begin from the beginning, right? So sometimes us parents, we're middle way, baru we're like, oh no, I should have done that differently all those years ago. But that's okay. Allah, you know, our husnul dhan with Allah, our husnul dhan that Allah wants to help us and is helping us with our family and the next keturunan kita seterusnya. I don't want to lose hope in that. I don't want us to be stuck in the circle that kita rasa kayak nggak bisa do anything, it's too late, or I can't, my child is grown up and I screwed up and I should have done things differently. Jadi lagi capek, lagi lose hope. Dan sebenarnya itu yang syaitan mau. Syaitan mau kita lose hope. Syaitan mau kita give up. And especially when we have the next generation looking at us and feeling and struggling with the confusion that they are in, that sense of hope in the deen and that sense of hope in Allah in a calm, sure way, I think gives them a lot of foundation gitu. Di mana-mana, wherever they go pun, they know that they have that relationship with Allah and then with their family. I don't know if that really addressed what you were asking. Actually, I might have gone off on a tangent.
No, actually, it makes a lot of sense. I have a couple of coworker that is way much older than me, and they always give me an affirmation like, Laili, you will be okay. You will be okay. And then just by hearing that, I feel like, yeah, I will be okay, you know. And that's that what I would always share with my friends. It will, not that the time will just passes, but then again, you know, like it is, I looked at it as like what you said, is the empathy towards the teen will makes us, you know, look at them from a different perspective.
Yeah. And there's an element of the trust of the fitrah, kan? Allah gave each of us our own fitrah. The hadith di Bukhari and Muslim about ma min mauludin illa yulad ala fitrah. So each of this child is born on fitrah. Jadi what we are doing on our part is to try and develop that fitrah. Tetapi asal usulnya memang that fitrah already has a relationship with Allah. And sometimes it's hard for us to see and to let go and to trust. We do our best and we kind of have to let them fly out into this world.
That is the hardest.
That's so hard.
That is the hardest. But then again, it brings me to a very interesting corner, because we're all our son or daughter of someone, you know, like it's, and then we're not playing, but we're figuring out that fitrah also by giving our best and trusting in Allah, in whatever that Allah put us in a situation. And then there's also that dua also, you know, that Rabbi habli minas salihin, that we're very hopeful that our children are gonna be salih salihah. And then also the dua of Prophet Ibrahim, Rabbi ja'alni muqima salati wa min zuriyati rabbana wa taqabbal du'a rabbana firli wali walidayya walil mu'minin yawma yaqumul hisab. It's not just talking about our children, but the children of our children, you know, like it's, we may be an investment of du'a of our great grandparents, who knows, you know. So moving along from the parents' standpoint, which, you know, a lot of our audience are parents of a teen or will be teen, like we're also going through, like I said before, like it's growing pains for them. Not really, it's growing pains for us also. We're loving this little babies, and then they grow up and then they become as tall as me. And to a lot of parents also, a lot of our children are very much taller than us. And what they're giving us is also like, it's moments where we just like, you know, it's a little too much sometimes. But then there's also those moments where we feel, oh, mashallah, my kids posted on Facebook. That also another topic. But would you be able to kind of like, from your experience, share with us a little bit of just, you know, like what is it normal what I'm feeling, or, you know, like is there any other, you know, like just from the parent perspective?
From the parent perspective, yeah. I'll start with, I think ini ayat yang very selalu kita dengarkan, ya ayyuhalladzina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. So Allah says in Surah Al-Kahf ayat 82, oh no, that's not Surah Al-Kahf, sorry, that's At-Tahrim.
Yes.
Where kita harus jaga diri kita sendiri dulu. We should take care of ourselves first. And sometimes as parents or as adults, we spend so much time trying to fix our children, tapi mereka sebenarnya they're watching us, and they're watching how we behave and how we practice and how we believe and what our mouth says when we go through difficulty. And itu yang that they are learning from. So I want to just kind of remind ourselves, actions speak louder than words, from our own behavior dulu. And at the same time, yes, sometimes we have that struggle. Like you said, bukan anak-anak saja yang mau soleh-soleha. Ini kadang-kadang kita orang tua yang di midlife crisis, suddenly nggak pernah begitu, not so interested in religion and spirituality until like 45. And then anak-anak udah besar, and then suddenly then they see their orang tua solat 5 kali sehari, selama-lama ini mungkin nggak solat atau solat 1 time a day, and we expect the kids to follow us and change immediately like us, and that's also a bit of a struggle, trying to respect each of us punya spiritual path to Allah kan. Jadi kita di different journeys, different time, different speed, and your children may not be at your path yet. You've had 40, 50, 60 years to develop what you want, what you're trying to develop. So, and sometimes with our desire of like, okay, this is better, this is good. Now, alhamdulillah, apa ibu sama bapa udah insaf, kita harus begini. But the kids are in shock, like, okay, nggak pernah begini. Now suddenly we want to go to kuliah every week and we want to do all these different things that we didn't do before. So even in our deen, kita lihat Rasulullah SAW di Makkah, and then we see ayat-ayat Quran Allah, hukum-hukumnya comes later kan. Di awal stages itu lebih stages of kenali Allah, kenali alam semesta. Look at the sky, look at the stars, look at the moon, look at the ocean. That spiritual part of Islam, the iman part of Islam, before all the hukum hakam and the syarat-syarat comes later during the time of Madinah. So I think
I see your point. Your point. Okay, going back to that, because I think it's part of the journey of our that graphic of life where when we getting close to that 40th year, we somewhat like reborn. And yes, at that time, our children are in the teen, which is they're also having, all these crises in their life. We're having a crisis in our as a spiritual being, thinking like, okay, I'm gonna hit the masjid 5 times a day and I'm gonna learn about parenting at the same times and studying my tahsin, my tafiz, and and becoming this religious person. But as you mentioned, when we trying to tag along our teens, that may not be, it may be clashing, even not even, instead of going along together with us, because they're seeing such a stark difference in the, in the household itself on a daily basis. Basically, that can be hard for teen. I can see that. I can see that. But then also, like, if we already make them like teach them, we already try our best throughout their childhood and then their preteen one, I think we're still going to be having a hard time with this teenager group. And it's, like it's a tricky time. I looked at it, like it's
and so there's still, like we were saying earlier, there's hope, and there's learning, there's benefits of talking about it. Like having a program like this is so important for people to share with each other and to learn from each other what works for your family, what works for my family, maybe, and certain issues yang mungkin I mean, with our community sekarang dan dunia sekarang also, everything is moving very fast, and the information that the teens are getting is a lot more than what we had during our teenage years. And with issues of LGBTQ, soalan-soalan tentang gender, tentang sexuality, begitu dari a young age, they're already exposed to all this. And kita orang tua, sometimes we are afraid, we don't want to address these things, but it's out of our own fear, sama tidak ilmu juga kan. Jadi, okay, the Quran says all this is wrong. Okay, yes, but how do you have this conversation? How do you engage in these things without just shutting out. So it is hard, like you said, it is, but it's also our tanggungjawab kita sebagai masyarakat, sebagai community, to keep learning, to keep educating ourselves, and to maybe adjust some of the things that we are doing that's not working. And I wanted to also share, there was a research that was done recently di Amerika, satu kasus besar pengajian research di tak ingat nama universitinya, but we can share the link nanti ya di Facebook atau di mana-mana, the article. Ada a few good articles that I want to share with all of you. Ada yang bahasa Inggeris, ada yang bahasa Indonesia. The two good ones are, like, one is from Yakin Institute, and Yakin Institute wrote about are our children going to be Muslim? Jadi dari perspektif of immigrant parents gitu, whatever lah, Indonesian or Pakistani, Arab community, so persoalannya I'm worried, are our children going to still be Muslim? So Yakin Institute have an article about that, which is really beneficial. And another research article that I saw recently is a study that was done by the university that had 200 to 300 families. Jadi yang diikutnya 200 hingga 300 keluarga yang punyai agama. So different agama. Ada yang Christian, ada yang Muslim, ada yang agama-agama beda. And they followed these families over a few years. Jadi studinya bukan kayak bikin survey langsung one time, enggak. They interview the family, the parents, the children, and they followed the family over a few years. And the topic of the study is to understand religious continuity across generations. Jadi maksudnya bagaimana nak pastikan sustainability dan penyambungan keagamaan beberapa generasi gitu kan?
Yeah.
Well, so for immigrant families gitu, if I'm Muslim, my parents are Muslim, my children, so how the study researches what are the points that are helpful, that they see, that helps with transmitting deen, transmitting religion to our next generation.
That sounds like very similar to what our community is, like we want our children and grandchildren and forever children will be still maintaining the lifestyle of, as a Muslim, family. Would you share with us a little bit more?
Sure. I'll pull out a couple of highlights from the article. One was, yang paling penting is emotional closeness. Jadi, di mana satu keluarga, in that family where there's a lot of emotional closeness antara parent and child, or even each other, atau sama nenek atau orang tua and the child, they feel emotionally close, they feel that they can share their feelings. That was one of the predictors lah, di mana family there's high emotional closeness, hasilnya kemudian lebih mudah untuk for the next generation to stay in the same religion, to believe and to practice and to want to believe and practice the same religion. The second point is, with the emotional closeness, having conversations, perbincangan yang fokusnya tentang agama dan spirituality. Jadi nggak cukup untuk kita bilang, we just have, well, we're very close, my kids and I, they love me and we're very close, and I'm a cool parent and we get along so well, we never have conflict, I give them what they want. So that may not always be emotional closeness. There might be conflict, mungkin ia punya disagreement apa, tapi there is that sense of trust and listening. The kids really feel the emotional closeness, that they are listened to. And hasil dari situ, you can have difficult conversations about the deen, about Islam, about what they are struggling with in school, dari segi mungkin living their deen atau explaining their deen to their friends. Tapi angle-nya, what the article pointed is, there is a difference between kita punya bincang tentang agama sama anak-anak kita, based on my interest as a parent, or my experience as a parent, or my way of doing kuliah, my way of doing halaqah, my way of doing pengajian. Jadi I'm having talks with my kids tentang agama, tetapi ikut my standards, right? It's not so much about what they're experiencing. their interests, their needs. What do they need to feel like this deen belongs to them? What do they need to feel that Allah is theirs, their Allah, not just Allah is for my orang tua, Allah is for me. So yeah, the emotion
that takes a like really listening, because it's, you know, it cannot just be, you know, like for example, like if a child thinks like going to a prom is a big deal, but then again there is the prayer times that comes in between preparation and going to prom, for example. Are you saying like that, what is that one of the example of having a conversation about like part of the listening? And because prom is very important for teenager, like for high school, it's very important. Where do we fit in the prayer time, or who are we gonna go with, stuff like that also, for example?
I think that's a very practical kind of day-to-day example, kan, like when we talk about the deen with our children, it's not about ini, this is wrong, this is right, so do it this way. Tapi if you're living a certain way, how do you still live as a Muslim and you can still interact with the world around you, which may be different daripada your world as a parent? So their world, prom is important to them. Their world, online social media is important to them. And I'm not trying to teach you anything. You all have your children. You all know how hard or easy, or probably usually hard it is to negotiate these things. Okay, kalau mau ke prom, ya maghrib dulu baru jalan, atau do they have the confidence already to solat maghrib wherever they are? Jadi foundation, balik kepada foundation ya kan, bukan isu solat atau enggak solat, tapi punya enggak that confidence to live my deen no matter where I am, even when my parents are not watching, because I know Allah is with me and Allah is watching, and I want to do this, not just out of takut, out of fear of Jahannam, but out of, you know, you feel this is good for you.
That's very interesting, Sakinah, because we're not looking so much on the product of prayer, but actually planting the seed, how important prayer really is. And that in itself is regardless whether it's a prom night or not a prom night. What we wanted is for our children to remember and love praying. That's how I see it, you know, like it's a long term. It's a long term.
I mean, when you say it like that, even I'm thinking when I was younger, kayak sometimes, you know, mama tanya, dah solat ya, udah, you know, jadi telekong sama mukena and sejadah, I just move it around, you know, udah solat, dah. And as I grow and really learn more and appreciate more personally dari that young age gitu, this solat is actually for me kan, bukannya untuk Allah, bukannya untuk orang tua aku. Akhirnya, it's for me to pour out my emotions and feelings and have that communication with Allah. Tapi when we are younger, of course, it's just like, okay, just do this, part of the schedule. But that's also important because sometimes kita sudah punya foundation. And then there may be years, maybe their college years or their younger years that they are not always practicing deen. Tapi they have in their mind, in their heart, masih ada foundation gitu kan, iman, Islam ada di situ. They can come back to that later in their life, inshallah, like some of us adults. And in relation to that, the study that I was talking about, the one yang interview 200-300 ahli keluarga families.
Yeah, I was going to go to that one again because you mentioned the first one, the emotional closeness with trust, and come to, you know, that the child, I mean, the teen will feel comfortable coming back to that adult because of that emotional closeness. And then you mentioned about having real conversations around religions and also spirituality that focus on the children's need, not from the parents' point of view. So I think you mentioned that there is another one that you would like to.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's called religious and spiritual modeling. So what all that means is they are watching what we do. So whatever we model and practice, they will imitate. Sama juga dari anak-anak, dari baby juga, parents, do a certain thing, they want to follow, mau ikut. So they are watching you. Kalau you do solat in the middle of the house, and whatever we are doing and practicing, they are watching us. And there's a level of consistency and stability that the youth need in that time of their identity formation and the very tumultuous atau kayak very much changing, like you said, physically, even the body is changing, mood berbeza. Suddenly I have, kucai, misai and growing body parts, and physically I'm changing so much, and hungry all the time, and all these changes emotionally, spiritually. For them to have a stable and consistent home base is also important. So the emotional connection, the religious conversation, and then doing that in a way that is consistent and stable. Stable itu juga termasuk kita bisa terima when they make mistakes, because that's hard. That's hard. They screw up, we screw up. Kita dah tua-tua ni masih screwing up all the time. Make taubah and ask Allah to forgive us. And tapi to really listen. And I had one of my sheikh, he had a conversation with his sons, and he said to them, no matter what you do wrong outside, if you did something wrong, nggak kisahlah dosa besar ke apa, if you did something wrong, Baba mau, I want to know it from you. Baba nggak mau dengar orang lain yang bilang, your son did this or your daughter did this. Kalau you make a mistake, tak apa, kita bincang together, we can face it together. Tapi I want to have a relationship with you, my teenage son or daughter or whatever, di mana you feel you can come to me and say, okay, Baba, Mama, Umi, whatever, I made this mistake, and I'm coming to you with it. And you know that I will be stable. Ya mungkin marah, tapi the trust is there in the relationship, di mana you can come back to me and we can face this together. Because a lot of those mistakes are going to happen in that age of youth, exploring, trying different things. And it was so sad that I had somebody in our community, bukan di sini, tapi di tempat lain, tapi di our community, Nusantara Muslim community. Dia bilang sama saya, she told me that she was raped, diperkosa, is it?
Yeah,
she was raped, but she couldn't tell her parents. Malu sama takut mau bilang sama orang tuanya. And she told me, but she's not a child gitu, she was 22 dah kali, dah 22, 23 gitu. Tapi masih muda kan, masih youth, masih living in the home sama orang tua. And it made me really sad. Because she felt that she was tak bisa tell her own parents that she had to go through something like this. Because she felt that she was already living a life yang orang tua aku nggak faham, di sekolah begini-begini, and I have a boyfriend, ini. They don't agree. Okay, itu memang okay, fine, itu different topic. Okay, your relationship lah, you have boyfriend atau gini-gini. Tapi isu ni yang diperkosa ini isu lain, bukan isu tentang itu. Jadi udah dikaitkan, dimixkan. Jadi I prefer to hide, because I don't want my parents to just be like, see, I told you, it's because you're exposed to all this that this happened. Padahal this thing happened out of the blue, completely different issue, di mana-mana, something else, somewhere else, not from her friends. Tapi to know that we have people in our young ones in our community yang they feel they can't share this, the pain that they're going through, I felt so sad. I just felt so sad.
So I looked at it also going back to the parent. I think it's a transformative period of a parent life also, to be able not to treat our teen, I mean, we have to treat them or deal with them in such a different way, just like when you reminded us about Ali radiallahu anhu, that at this stage of their life, we have to become friends. And sometimes we are nicer to our friends than we are to our own teen. And that, you know, like having to hear that such an extreme story, no wonder, you know, we are not the two people, or if it's a single parent, not that adult that they run into to keluh kesah, to like just, you know, pour their whole stories out, which is, you know, a lot of time, I mean, what we wish for, actually, we wish they would come to us. So it's, you know, I feel that's a very powerful research that you share with us. So number one, the emotional closeness, and number two, having real conversations around religion and spirituality that focus on children's need, not the parents. And then the last one is modeling. I looked at it also like this is also an opportunity for us to be a better person, you know, like we do make the dua that do not give the trial through our children. And then when we looked at it from the point of view, yeah, Allah, this is an opportunity for me to be better. And then at the same time, humbling myself to come down to their level and be their friends. I think that's quite practical, though it's hard. It's hard.
Yep.
It's very hard.
Hard, and especially if we are new to this country, atau even if not so new, but for us to be aware of current events for our children, for our grandchildren. We can't just live completely in isolation with what is going on. Whether we agree or don't agree, that's lain cerita, tapi harus punya engagement itu, and that's how we learn, that's how we grow. I mean, we all know the best way to check our level of munafik, hypocrisy, is having children also, right? You have people looking at you and watching you, jadi langsung, oh, okay, I'm not doing what I'm saying. Jadi the hypocrisy, the munafik, the little munafik comes out very quickly when you're raising children. You can hide, they see you, they see the truth. So that's one of the best ways to grow, one of the most difficult ways to grow, probably. And that's also why it's very rewarded. Allah gives so much karamah, so much honor that Allah gives to parents. So much barakah in raising a family, and like jihad, and because it is hard.
Yeah. So we've looked at teen, and then we've looked at the parents. Would you share with us just a couple of your experiences with teen?
I'll share one about listening, the power of really listening. When I was at the hospital, I had a patient who had cancer. Anak-anak yang cancer ni umurnya kayak 12-13 gitu. He was a boy, he had cancer.
13-14. That's fairly young.
Very young. And he had cancer for udah beberapa tahun, for a few years. So he was already used to coming in and out of hospital for chemotherapy, for treatment. Jadi when I met him, kira udah di penghujung umur gitu. He had about 1 week. He was towards the end of life. Doktor bilang katanya he had 1 week to live, lebih kurang lebih. And he was like having stress around sleeping, gak bisa tidur, like having a lot of anxiety and thoughts. And of course, all the parents and the adults and even the medical team were saying, oh, he's of course he's worried because he's dying, right? He's dying this week. And so when I went in and the chaplain went in and talked to him and really tried to listen, like what's heavy on your heart, really try to listen. Sebenarnya he wasn't concerned about dying. Dia dah bilang, yeah, I know I'm going to die. I have had cancer for a few years. I'll be in heaven. I'll be with God. Like, I'm okay.
So what did he worry about then?
What did he worry about? Exactly. He was worried about his little brother, adiknya. Because he said in his neighborhood, sore, afternoon, petang-petang gitu, they would play with the neighbors, and the little brother sometimes would get bullied by the older boys. So this abang who's dying from cancer, his concern, not so much the dying from cancer, his concern, siapa akan jaga adik? Who's going to jaga adik aku lepas aku when I die? Who is going to take care of my little brother, so my little brother doesn't get bullied by the neighbors when I'm not there to play with him anymore?
That is very powerful.
So, and that would not have come out maybe if we didn't really listen, really be curious. Kita really harus ada curiosity, like anak-anak ni pikir apa sebenarnya? Because I would say 90% of the time kita sudah punya assumption, we have an assumption already. Oh yeah, that's what they're worried about. Oh yeah, that's what they're stressing about. Or they don't want to salat because of this, or they don't want to wear this because of that.
Because it's so easy.
It's so easy.
So easy.
And maybe we're right. Half of the times, maybe we're right. But half of the times, we're not. And it's very different what they're thinking. So unless we're like really curious to learn and really give space lah. Memang it takes time to build that trust kan sama anak-anak atau sama teman to really get the truth, the painful truth to come out. Bukan begitu mudah aja all the time. The environment, are we creating a home space and an environment where there's peace, there's ketenangan, sakinah, mawaddah, rahmah, ketenangan di rumah, jadi punya rasa begitu, jiwa juga tenang, easier for them to share. Or or is it just noisy all the time in my house with the TV on and the radio on and the WhatsApp group on, and jadi suara anak-anak jadi gak keluar, jadi dengarnya suara lain gitu. So all these things, inshallah we'll talk more in the future sessions, but just little simple reminders that might be useful for us. Sometimes we know it. Dina tadhkirah, adina nasihah, kita dah tahu semua ni, cuma reminder to each other, nasihat to each other. I'll share that.
That is very powerful, Sakinah. Like coming in from a 14 years old, it's all he worry about is his brother who's gonna, who's sometimes getting bullied, and yet he's not worried about dying. He's worried about his brother. Mashallah.
And once we know what actually he's worried about, baru kita bisa address that issue, right? Otherwise, we are trying to fix the wrong things that's not the problem. And trying to fix, we can't fix things to begin with. That's already hard enough, and then we're trying to fix the wrong things.
That's double.
And sometimes it might be something small, like in this case, maybe we say, oh, don't worry about your brother, he'll be fine. Atau it's not logical, why are you worrying about this? Like you're dying, don't you have more serious things to worry about? But that is what he's worried about. So respect that, listen to it, and respect that. If that is what he's worried about, let him talk about it. Okay, so let's plan. How can we help to make sure your brother doesn't get bullied? Okay, minta tolong jiran lagi sebelah, or find the other boy, or whatever. Just have a conversation around that to address his needs and his concern. Like what we said earlier from that study juga kan, kalau mau bincang tentang agama, dari topik-topik agama, not just from your perspective, tapi from their perspective. What is useful for them, what they feel like, oh, this I can actually use and implement. That's
coming in from like a set of Muslim family where here we're not just the minority, we're the minority of the minority. Lucky for some of the parents who live in an environment where there's masjid is closed, or there is an Islamic school, or like you're enrolling your family, your children's in an Islamic school, it's a safe environment. But when it comes to a bigger one, like high school or colleges, that's another set of whole different situation there, where I think, like what you said, our skill of being able to listen to them and more like dig into their story, it will be very beneficial at that time, because it's, I can see it again. I'm seeing it from both sides, where the parents also have to transform to become, to be a better communicator at that time, while they don't want to spend time with us. So, like that tricky time. So may Allah always help us. And hopefully, as we go on to our program, that you will share more your tips and tricks, and coming up with the Ramadan also, where our heart is softened, that there are moments at home where we do iftar together, or we do prayer together, or we do dinner together, that would create an opportunity for talking more, or opening up more about how their day's going, or how, just some small talk that would it's like planting a seed, basically, so that we, the conversation can continue on. Because really
the consistency
yeah, because when I looked at it, like this teenager year, in the next 7 or 8 years, they may be getting their own family. They're actually going to be leaving our own house. So then we will not be having more conversation. We're having even less conversation with us, or less opportunity to have meal together, or even saying hello over the phone, because they will be busy, they will be busy with their life. Do you have any other case that you can share with us? I know I remember you saying, I think you mentioned it earlier, about where the parents just suddenly want to become saleh and salehah. That, I've seen that a couple of, in my own friends community, where the parents want to become, better in their spiritual, as a spiritual being, and then tagging along their children. When you mentioned that to me, I can see where it's not fair. But then also I can see, like, oh my goodness, it's an opportunity for the parents to like tag the teen along with them for their spiritual journey. But then again, you mentioned it earlier, that it's actually not, not easy for the young one.
The changes. And I think we also talked about, like, when the parents try to be suddenly more saleh salehah, and then also in relation to that, also like the parents' own struggles with social media. We didn't talk about that much yet. That's another angle also that I think is important, because that question comes up often. Well, my child is like, addicted to social media or this and that. And when I talk to the youth, even at Muktamar or in other sessions, I talk to the youth, and they're also saying, well, my parents are on the WhatsApp and on the phone all the time. So it's like, okay, so who's addicted to what now? Orang tuanya yang di HP atau anak-anak yang di HP? Sama, dua-dua di HP.
My excuse is that I did not open WhatsApp group at work.
Yeah, so I was working when I get home. Now di rumah, I'm going to spend all night on the WhatsApp group. Apa, pengajian Anur? No, just kidding. Pengajian Anur, that's my group. Ya, tapi benar, sama di sini, dan kemudian di Indonesia, dan different time zone, and then we have the TV on and watching all the drama, and so the kids are also looking at the parents going, no, I want to discipline my parents too, like, what are they doing? yeah, I'm taking this lightly at the end. I know we've had like quite a heavy 1 hour, and yeah, inshallah we'll talk more about some of those things in the next session also.
Inshallah. Inshallah. All right. So again, I would like to invite all of you who are watching on Facebook or YouTube to sign up with our program, the Parenting Teens. We have actually a year-long program. We would have a couple more Zoom with Sakinah, and then also throughout Ramadan, we will share with you like a reflective flyers that you can use independently with your family. And then also those who already signed up with the program, you will be included in our private WhatsApp group. And then from there also, there will be, we will share with you a Google form where you would be able to pour out your stories and then your share your moment with us. We will use that privately to build the flyer so that it's actually will benefit you and being able to be, what the content will be applicable for all of you who are in the program. The next session that we're gonna have, inshallah, is next week with again Sister Sakinah, and then the topic it's about more about building the membangun jembatan kasih sayang. It's I think the theme is like we cannot force someone to hear a message if they are not ready to receive. But we must never underestimate the power of planting a seed, because when we plant the seed, hopefully we believe that we're always trying our best, and I think Allah always reward us for giving our effort, our best effort. Allah doesn't judge us by by the result, by the end of the product, but Allah always give us power, and then Allah always give us kasih sayang during the struggles itself, during the process itself. So we will dig in more into that, building the
relationship, the empathy, communication,
yes,
and topics like that also.
Yes,
and yeah.
So we will get to that one. Can you touch a little bit again about the fitrah of the child itself? And I think we also have a video from you that we will share a little bit before we close our session.
Okay. Did we want to make dua at the end, or make dua now and then end with the video? What was your...
I think we can make dua after the video, if that's okay with you. But can you share with us just a little bit the thought about fitrah itself?
Okay. I wanted to sort of share the example of fitrah from this video in a way to end on a note of hope. Kan? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu always talks about making it easy for us. The deen, ad-deen yusr, the deen should be easy for us. I know it's not always easy and other challenges in life, but our fitrah has that sense of comfort and ease in that relationship with Allah. And kita semua, all our souls, all our fitrah have spoken to Allah. Alastu bi rabbikum qalu bala. We say this all the time. Alastu bi rabbikum qalu bala. We know this. And sometimes it's really hard to trust even our own fitrah, much less somebody else's fitrah, to really believe. I say I believe. Do I really believe? That's a different level, and that's not easy some days. And sometimes it's easy dari segi when we look at a young child, and the innocence in them feels so pure and clean and shiny and full of nur. And as we age, kadang-kadang kayak layers and layers of struggle and pain and shadow and darkness gitu kan, we feel covers our heart or our fitrah. And yet Allah always talks about in the Quran how our tawbah and our turning back to him at any time can purify our hearts, can bring back that nur, that youth, that connection with Allah, just like that. Yeah. So in this video, I don't know, some of you might have seen the video, but it just reminds me so much of that innocent, curious fitrah that we have, that loves Allah and that thinks that Allah is amazing and awesome and such a, and that we have a personal relationship with Allah. And that's really what we want for our children. We don't know how long we're going to be around. Tidak ada guarantee kan?
Yeah.
Kita plan sebegini, I'm going to raise my child, okay. And then what if you drop dead at 45?
Yep.
Wallahu alam. What if your child doesn't want to listen to you? Wallahu alam. Na'udhu billah. But to have that personal relationship and to help them to reawaken the personal relationship that they have to Allah, I really, really feel this is the most powerful tool, the most powerful learning that I have in with my youth, with my nephews, with my best friend's children, is helping them to know Allah, helping them to know themselves, and then their relationship with you, with the community, inshallah, also will just kind of lean on that fitrah and that knowing, and that will sustain them even when you're not there anymore, because we won't be there. We won't be there when they're going through their hard times. Oh, but Allah will. Allah will. So let's end with this video, and after the video, inshallah, we can do a dua together.
That's very hopeful also for me as a parent. That message is also very, very hopeful for me too. All right, Mbak Ainu, kalau bisa minta tolong di-share untuk kita semua. Jazakillah, Mbak Ainu.
Jazakillah, Mbak Ainu.
Masya Allah.
That's a spirit. That's a good one. That's a good one, Dad. And our hearts know what's good out there and what's good in our homes and what's good inside us. And it's our amanah from Allah to remind that to ourselves and to our children, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. All right. All the everybody over here, my brothers and my sisters, we come to the end of our session with Sakinah today. I would like again to invite all of you to sign up for our program from the IMSA sister, Sub-Department Parenting. We have this session for a whole year long. There, it's packed with so many good program in there. The first few times that we're gonna have along with Sakinah for the Ramadan, and I think we're gonna meet again after Ramadan. So we're gonna meet next week, and then it's flyers throughout Ramadan, and then we're gonna meet again after Ramadan with you, inshallah. And then from there, during the summer, we're gonna have tea time talk between us, among us. I think we're gonna have about 2 sessions for the tea time talk, and then in the fall we will have training. That part, I think it's also very good for parents to learn the skill furthermore in how to not just dealing with the teen, but then also empower ourselves and in making ourselves a better parents also. With that, I'm gonna
Inshallah, also I'm in discussion with the IMSA youth.
Are you?
Yes, so inshallah there will be sessions that we're going to try and plan for the youth with me or another chaplain, and we'll arrange something inshallah for the youth. Yeah, so we'll see what comes
next. Be beneficial on both sides then.
Alhamdulillah, IMSA punya community begitu sangat-sangat dedicated and motivated untuk
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, inshallah.
I feel blessed also to be part of this foundation. It's something that benefiting me and also my children. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. So behind the scene, I have so many helper with me, Mbak Ainu, Mbak Wiwit, Mbak Erni also, and then again, thank you, Pak Yusuf Kurniawan, for already recite the Quran for us at the beginning. I hope I will see you again next week, Sakinah, inshallah. And then, and I hope everybody is benefiting also from this session. It's a short session, but I hope that we are raising an awareness, which is what we needed. I think having a heart that is being touched by what our teen are facing, and that we know that we have the tool, or we are hopeful to go through this period with our family together. I think that's the message that we want to get across to everybody. Sakinah, again, thank you so much for your time. I would like to give it to you, the time to make dua together before we close it.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين وعافية في الجسد وزيادة في العلم وبركة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت اللهم حاول علينا في سكرات الموت والنجاة من النار ربنا رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتنا ربنا وتقبل دعاء Ya Rabb, wahai Tuhanku, jadikanlah aku dan orang yang mendirikan salat dan juga keturunanku seterusnya, ya Allah. Wahai Tuhan kami, perkenankanlah doa-doa kami. Rabbana hab lana min azwajina wa dhurriyyatina qurrata a'yun waj'alna lil muttaqina imama. Ya Rabb, berikanlah kami isteri-isteri, suami-suami, zuriat-zuriat dan keturunan yang baik-baik, dan menjadikan mereka penyejuk mata, penyejuk hati bagi kami. Jadikan kami imam yang seterus-terusnya untuk orang yang bertakwa.
Amin.
Ya Rabb, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, we ask you for your blessing, we ask you for your barakah, we ask you for your nur, we ask you for your huda wa tuqa, for us, for our loved ones, for our parents, whether our parents are dead or alive, whether they are here near us or they are far away back home di Nusantara, di Indonesia, di Malaysia, di mana-mana sahaja, ya Rab. Help us to continue the legacy of Islam. The legacy of Islam that started not from Rasulullah SAW, but even from Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Ya Allah, help us with parenting the next generation, whether they are our children by blood or whether they are our children from the community, even if they are not related to us by blood. Ya Allah, some of the parents of Rasulullah SAW were not his blood parents, but they took care of him and they helped to raise him. And he helped and raised the children of the community and helped to keep this community close, Ya Allah, the community of IMSA and our brothers and sisters there to support each other in raising the future generation, Ya Allah.
Amin, ya Rabbal Alamin.
This is a heavy task, memang berat, especially here far away from what feels like home, in an environment that feels very difficult on some days, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. But we know that you put us here for a purpose. We know that you put us here to help bring the nur of your deen, the rahmah of your deen, the joy and the love of your deen to this part of the world, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. And you've placed us in this place, and only you know why. And with that, Ya Allah, grant us the strength, grant us the love, grant us the istiqamah to live our lives in a way that you are rida with us and you are rida with our future generation.
Amin, Allahumma amin.
ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Ya Allah, unite us, kembalikan kita bersama adik-beradik kita IMSA dan seterusnya satu ummah dan seterusnya semua humanity di Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la bighairi hisab. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Wassalamu ala asrafil mursalin. Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Amin, amin. Allahumma amin. Thank you so much, jazakillah khairan. Juga untuk semua bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, ayah bunda yang sudah ikut bersama, baik di Zoom ataupun juga di Facebook dan di YouTube. Pendaftaran masih buka untuk mengikuti program ini yang akan insya Allah akan berlangsung selama setahun. Dari kami, dari tim, mohon maaf lahir dan batin dengan segala kekurangannya. Insya Allah kita bisa bertemu kembali minggu depan dan juga kita bisa ketemu di WhatsApp grup kita. Saya tunggu kehadiran Anda semua di kelas kita. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baiknya kita tutup ya dengan mengucapkan astaghfirullahaladzim, astaghfirullahaladzim, astaghfirullahaladzim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladziina amanu wa 'amilus shalihat wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik.